All right, everybody, welcome back. We are going to do a deep dive today, and we are looking at COP29.
Yeah.
Specifically, some of the interesting things that are coming out of this year's conference.
Yeah, some interesting stuff.
And I think we were both kind of surprised by this.
Yes.
But there seems to be this theme of energy and peace emerging from COP29.
Right. And that's not something that we traditionally think of, right? I mean, we've been covering climate change, a while now, and I think this is a new angle.
It is, and it seems to be front and center. And one of the kind of like key things that's coming out of COP29 is this Baku Call on climate action for peace, relief, and recovery.
Yeah, the Baku Call.
So what is this?
Well, it's really interesting. So it's not just another pledge, right? Like we've seen a lot of pledges come out of these COPs.
Right.
It's really a call to kind of reframe how we think about climate change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's saying that climate change is actually a threat to global security and peace.
Okay, so it's not just about, the environmental impacts or like the weather events.
Exactly. It's about the ripple effects and how climate change can exacerbate conflicts.
And specifically, it sounds like this Baku Call is really focused on how energy can be a driver of peace.
Yeah, that seems to be a really key part of it. And one of the things they highlight is, in conflict zones or in areas where there's a lot of instability, renewable energy projects can actually be a way to create jobs.
Oh, interesting.
Reduce reliance on dwindling resources and even foster cooperation between communities because they have to work together to manage these projects.
So it's not just about avoiding conflict over resources, but actually using energy as a tool to build peace.
Yeah, and I think that's
that's fascinating.
Very powerful idea.
Yeah, and are there examples of this actually happening?
Yeah, there are some really cool examples. One that they highlight is solar-powered water pumps in rural communities.
Okay.
So these pumps obviously provide clean water, which is essential.
Right.
But they also reduce the need for women and girls to travel long distances to collect water, which can often be very dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
So it's directly contributing to their safety and also empowering them within their communities.
That's an amazing example of how something like a solar pump can have all these ripple effects that you wouldn't necessarily think of on peace and stability.
Absolutely. And COP29 is really highlighting that interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they've dedicated a whole day. Day 5 of the conference is dedicated to energy, peace, relief, and recovery.
That's pretty significant.
It is. It's a really significant development.
All right.
I think it shows that there's this growing recognition that to address climate change effectively, we need a much more holistic approach, right? We can't just focus on reducing emissions or adapting to the impact. But we also have to address these underlying societal issues that climate change exacerbates.
Like conflict.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think it's a really positive thing that's happening. But I'm sure there are some people who would push back on this.
Oh, definitely.
And say, well, is this realistic? Can focusing on energy really solve these deep-rooted conflicts that we see around the world?
Yeah. And, it's a valid point. I mean, energy is not a magic solution.
Right.
Conflicts are incredibly complex. There are so many factors that contribute to them.
Yeah.
But I think what the Baku Call is trying to do is not oversimplify the issue, but to recognize that energy plays a really crucial role, both in fueling conflict, but also potentially in resolving it.
Okay.
So by providing reliable, sustainable energy, you can actually create a more stable foundation for peace-building efforts.
Right.
It may not solve every problem, but it can create a better environment.
So it's about creating the conditions for peace to flourish.
Exactly.
Not necessarily solving all the problems in one fell swoop.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that this idea seems to be gaining traction beyond just the conference halls.
Okay.
We're seeing governments, NGOs, businesses increasingly investing in clean energy projects that are specifically aimed at fostering peace and stability.
Oh, wow. So there's actual real world things happening.
Yes, and there are some really cool examples.
Okay.
So, things like off-grid solar systems for refugee camps, renewable energy microgrids in conflict zones.
Wow.
And even training programs for local communities to learn how to manage and maintain these systems.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really becoming a more and more tangible approach.
So it's not just talk, it's action is actually happening.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what makes this connection between energy and peace so compelling. It's not just a theoretical concept anymore. It's a real way to try to build a more sustainable and peaceful future.
Wow. So as COP29 continues, what should we be paying attention to? Like, what are the things we should be looking out for?
I would say keep an eye on the specific commitments and partnerships that emerge from these energy peace discussions.
Okay.
And also look for like concrete initiatives and funding announcements. You know, how are they going to translate these high-level goals into actual action?
Right. So the the rubber meets the road sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is really fascinating, and I think it's potentially a huge shift in how we think about climate action.
It really could be.
It's not just about saving the planet anymore. It's about, like you said, building a more just and peaceful world. And I think that's really exciting. And it makes you wonder, could investing in clean energy actually be one of the most effective ways to achieve both?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And hopefully, as COP29 unfolds, we'll get some answers.
Get some more clarity.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really interesting. Thanks for breaking this down.
Of course, my pleasure.
And we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, stay tuned.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, everyone.